The execution was set for dawn, but Marshal Kane had other plans. He wanted the Apache men to die slowly in front of the whole town, so everyone would remember what happened to savages who refused to sell their land. Sarah Blackwood heard the screams before she saw the blood. She had ridden into Copper Ridge just after sunrise, saddlebags heavy with 3 months of cattle money, planning to buy winter supplies and ride back to her ranch before nightfall. But the sound coming from the town square made her horse rear back, nostrils flaring like it could smell death on the wind. In the center of the square, 5 Apache men hung by their wrists from a wooden scaffold, their bodies stripped to the waist, backs carved open by whips. The crowd jeered and spat, children throwing stones while their mothers watched with cold satisfaction. The men didn't cry out. They just bled in silence, like the desert itself was weeping through their skin. Sarah's hand went instinctively to her rifle, but it was the tattoo that stopped her cold. On the oldest man's shoulder, a mark she knew better than her own reflection. The sacred bear, clawed circle with 7 rays. The same symbol burned into her left arm 8 years ago, when an Apache warrior had pulled her from a collapsing mine shaft and breathed life back into her crushed lungs. The same mark that meant she owed a blood debt that could never be repaid. Her heart hammered so hard she thought her ribs would crack. How much? Sarah's voice cut through the noise like a blade through silk. The crowd went silent. Women clutched their children. Men turned to stare at the tall woman in the worn leather duster, her dark hair tied back severe, her eyes the color of storm clouds rolling in from the mountains. Marshal Kane stepped forward, his smile slow and cruel. "Well now, Miss Blackwood, didn't take you for a savage lover." "I asked a question, Marshal. How much for all 5? Kane laughed and the crowd joined him. "All 5? Lady, you could sell every acre you own and still come up short. These aren't cattle. They're war criminals. Killed 3 prospectors up near the canyon." Sarah knew he was lying. She could smell it on him like whiskey and old blood. "I'll give you everything I have," she said. And before Kane could answer, she upended both saddlebags on the dusty ground. Silver dollars spilled out like a river of moonlight, rolling between boots and pooling in the cracks between the boards. 3 months of back-breaking work. Every cent she'd saved to repair her barn and buy breeding stock for next season. The crowd gasped. Kane's eyes went wide, then narrow. He looked at the money, then at the Apache men, then back at Sarah like he was trying to calculate which would cause him more trouble. "That's blood money," someone shouted from the crowd. "Apache gold." "It's cattle money," Sarah said, her voice flat. "Earned honest. Now do we have a deal or do I take it to the territorial governor and ask why you're executing men without a trial?" The silence that followed was so complete, Sarah could hear the wind moving through the scaffold ropes. Kane's jaw worked. Finally, he spat in the dust. "Cut them down." Sarah led the 5 Apache men out of Copper Ridge before the sun reached its peak, the pack horse carrying supplies she'd bought with her last few coins. None of them spoke. They just rode in silence, bodies swaying with pain, eyes fixed on the horizon like they were navigating by stars only they could see. By the time they reached her ranch, a weathered homestead tucked into the shadow of Copper Ridge, with a barn that leaned like a drunk and a fence that had seen better decades, the sun was bleeding red across the western sky. She helped them down from the horses, didn't touch more than necessary, just untied their bonds and stepped back. They stood in a line, these 5 brothers. You could see it in the shape of their faces, the identical set of their shoulders, still proud despite the blood drying on their backs. The eldest met her eyes. His gaze was like looking into a canyon with no bottom. Sarah pointed to the barn. Water pumps inside, clean rags on the shelf. Salve in the tin box, bunk rooms in the back. She turned toward the house, then stopped. Nobody's going to hurt you here, not while I'm breathing. The youngest brother, couldn't have been more than 19, spoke for the first time. His voice was rough, like he'd been screaming until his throat bled. Why? Sarah pulled back her sleeve, showing the sacred bear burned into her skin. Because 8 years ago, one of your people decided I was worth saving. Now I'm returning the favor. Night fell fast and cold. Sarah sat on her porch, Winchester across her knees, coffee going cold in her tin cup. Inside the barn, she could hear them talking in their language, a low murmur like water over stone. She understood maybe one word in 10. She'd picked up some Apache during her years in the territory, but not enough. Still, she caught the tone. Suspicion, pain, and something else. Desperation. The barn door creaked open. The eldest brother stepped out, moving carefully, like every step cost him. In the moonlight, she could see his face properly for the first time. Strong features, eyes that had seen too much, a scar running from his temple to his jaw. "You," he said in English, heavily accented but clear. "You have name?" "Sarah Blackwood. I am Dakota." He gestured back toward the barn. "My brothers, Neshoba, Kohana, Mahka, Nidis." Sarah nodded. "Those are good names." Dakota studied her for a long moment. "The mark on your arm. Who gave you this?" "Don't know his name. Just that he pulled me out of a collapsed silver mine 8 years ago, up near the Mesa Verde. Breathed life back into me when my lungs were full of dust. Carved that mark into my arm with a hot knife so I'd remember I was alive for a reason." Something shifted in Dakota's eyes. "Mesa Verde. 8 years." He touched his own shoulder, where the sacred bear was carved. "My father. He told us of a woman with hair like night. Said he saved her because the spirits demanded it." Sarah's coffee cup slipped from her hand, shattering on the wooden boards. "Your father," she whispered. "Dead now. 3 years. White man's sickness." Dakota's voice carried no emotion, but his hand clenched into a fist. "He said if we ever met a woman with the mark, we were to protect her as he protected her. Sacred debt passes through blood." Sarah couldn't speak. The world had suddenly gotten very small and very large at the same time. "In the morning," Dakota said, "we leave. We thank you, but we cannot stay." "Where will you go?" For the first time, something cracked in his stone face. "To die, probably. Or to find our sons before they are sold so far we will never find them." Sarah stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "Your sons?" Dakota's jaw tightened. 15 boys, taken from our village 6 days ago. The youngest is 4. The oldest is 13. He looked at her with eyes that held an entire ocean of pain. "That is why we came to Copper Ridge, to track the slavers. Marshal Kane knew. He is one of them." The pieces fell into place like bullets loading into a chamber. "That's why he was going to kill you," Sarah said. "You got too close." Neshoba, the second brother, stepped out of the barn. He was shorter than Dakota, but broader, built like a bull. "We were stupid. Should have killed him when we had the chance. Now the trail is cold. 6 days. They could be in Mexico by now. Or they could be at the Red Canyon trading post," Sarah said. "It's where all the slavers stop before crossing the border. 3 days ride south." All 5 brothers were outside now, surrounding her porch like wolves catching a scent. "You know this place?" Dakota asked. "I know the man who runs it. Silas Cross, meanest son of a bitch in the territory." Sarah looked at each of them in turn. "You ride down there alone. You'll die before you see your sons. He's got 20 men. All armed. All killers. Then we die," said Kohana, the third brother, his voice quiet but sharp as a blade. "Better than living while our children suffer." Sarah felt something ignite in her chest. the same thing that had made her stand in that town square and empty her life savings into the dust. "Or," she said, "you let me help you. I know the territory. I know the people, and I know how to shoot." The brothers looked at each other. Some silent conversation passed between them in the language of shared blood and shared loss. Finally, Dakota spoke. "Why? You paid your debt. You freed us. You owe us nothing more." Sarah thought about the man who'd pulled her from the darkness, who'd given her back her life when she had nothing left to live for, who'd carved hope into her skin with a burning knife. "Your father saved me," she said. "Not just from the mine, from giving up. I was down there to die, you understand? I'd crawled in there to let the mountain take me." She touched the sacred bear on her arm. "He gave me a reason to keep breathing, so if his grandsons are out there suffering, then yeah, I owe him. I owe you, and I'm going to see this through." The 5 brothers stood silent in the moonlight, these warriors who'd been beaten and hung and nearly killed, still standing tall. "Then we ride at dawn," Dakota said. Sarah nodded. At dawn. She didn't sleep that night. None of them did. They sharpened knives, checked rifles, rolled bandages, and prepared for a war that would probably kill them all. But somewhere out there, 15 boys were waiting in the dark. And Sarah Blackwood had never walked away from a debt in her life. The southern desert was a living hell. Every breath felt like swallowing fire. Every step the horses took kicked up dust that clung to skin and clothes like the land itself wanted to drag them down. But Maka, the 4th brother, was the best tracker Sarah had ever seen. Every broken twig, every disturbed stone, every place where wagon wheels had pressed too deep into the sand. He read them like words in a book. 4 wagons, he said, kneeling beside a set of tracks. Heavy loaded. Moving fast but not careful. They think no one is following. "How far ahead?" Sarah asked, shielding her eyes from the sun. "Half a day, maybe less." Maka touched the sand, brought it to his nose. "One of the horses is lame, left rear leg. They will have to stop soon." Needus, the youngest, checked his bow. "Good, then we can kill them while they rest." "No," Dakota said. "If we attack wrong, they might kill the children to travel faster. We have to be smart." They rode on, the sun beating down like a hammer on an anvil, the horizon shimmering with heat mirages that looked like water, but were only lies. By midday, they found the first sign that turned Sarah's stomach. A small wooden doll, half buried in the sand. Hand-carved, the paint worn away by small fingers. Needus picked it up with shaking hands. "Tarek's, my son's." His voice broke. "He never goes anywhere without it." Sarah watched him clutch that doll like it was made of gold and prayers, and something in her chest cracked open. "We're close," she said. "He dropped it so you'd know which way they went." Neshoba nodded, his massive hands gentle as he squeezed his youngest brother's shoulder. "The boy is smart, like his father." They moved faster after that, pushing the horses as hard as they dared. By late afternoon, they spotted smoke rising from behind a ridge of red stone. Camp. Sarah led them wide, approaching from the north where the sun would be in the slavers' eyes. They left the horses in a ravine and crawled the last 100 yards on their bellies, like snakes hunting in the dust. From the ridge, Sarah counted the men below. 12, maybe 13. All armed. 4 wagons arranged in a loose square, and inside that square, her breath caught. Children. 15 of them huddled together in the shade of a wagon, wrists bound, eyes hollow with fear and exhaustion. The youngest couldn't have been more than 4, holding on to an older boy who looked like he was trying to be brave and failing. Beside her, Dakota made a sound like a wounded animal trying not to scream. "Kai," he whispered, "my son." the tall one. Sarah looked at the boy, maybe 12 years old, standing straight despite the ropes, despite the bruises darkening his face. She saw Dakota in the shape of his jaw, the set of his shoulders. "We go tonight," Kohana said, "when they sleep." "No," Sarah said. "Look at the wagons. They're packed light. They're planning to move at first light. We hit them now while they're tired and think they're safe." "How?" Dakota asked. 13 men. 6 of us." Sarah smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. "I've got dynamite in my saddlebag. We blow the north wagon. They'll think it's an attack from that direction. While they're scrambling, Mahka and Nidus circle around and cut the children loose. The rest of us hit them from 3 sides. "You will die," Neshoba said bluntly. "Maybe," Sarah agreed. "But those boys down there will die for sure if we don't try. I've seen what happens to Apache children in the slave markets. I've seen..." She stopped, swallowed hard. "I won't let that happen. Not to them." Dakota looked at her for a long moment, and she saw in his eyes the same thing she felt burning in her own chest. Not hope. Something harder. Something that couldn't be killed by fear or pain or common sense. Purpose. "We do this together," he said. "Or not at all." Sarah nodded. "Together." They waited until the sun touched the western mountains, painting the world in shades of blood and gold. Sarah crawled back to the horses, retrieved the dynamite she'd bought last year for clearing stumps, and set the charges on the north wagon with hands that didn't shake even a little. Mahka and Nidus moved like shadows, circling wide through the arroyos and rock formations, invisible as ghosts. Sarah, Dakota, Neshoba, and Kohana took position on the ridge, rifles ready. The slavers below were passing around a bottle, laughing about something. One of them kicked at a boy who'd been crying, and Sarah had to bite her tongue to keep from shooting him right then. "Wait," she told herself. "Wait for the signal." The sun dropped below the horizon. Shadows stretched long. One of the slavers walked toward the north wagon to retrieve something. The explosion tore through the desert like the earth itself was screaming. Fire and wood erupted into the sky. Men shouted, dove for weapons, ran toward the flames. And Sarah opened fire. Her first shot took a slaver through the throat. Her second shattered another's knee. Beside her, the 3 brothers were firing with precision that came from a lifetime of hunting, each bullet finding flesh. Chaos erupted. The slavers scattered, trying to find cover, return fire, understand where the attack was coming from. In the confusion, Mahka and Nidus slipped into the camp like water through cracks, knives flashing as they cut the ropes binding the children. "Run!" Mahka shouted in Apache. "North! Run north!" The boys didn't hesitate. They scattered like quail, small bodies racing for the darkness beyond the firelight. But the slavers were recovering now, organizing, and Sarah saw what was about to happen a heartbeat before it did. 3 men raised their rifles, aiming not at the ridge but at the fleeing children. "No!" Dakota's roar split the night as he stood up, exposing himself completely, drawing their fire. Bullets sang past him. One caught his shoulder, spinning him half around, but he didn't fall. He just kept firing, kept standing between the guns and his son, kept being the wall that wouldn't break. Sarah was running before she knew it, sliding down the ridge in a shower of stones, Winchester barking, taking down one slaver, then another, then a third, who'd been drawing a bead on Neshoba. Something hit her from behind, arms like iron bands wrapping around her waist, dragging her backward. She drove her elbow into her attacker's face, felt bone crunch, twisted free. Silas Cross stood in front of her, nose bleeding, eyes wild with rage. She recognized him from wanted posters, from whispered stories in saloons. The slaver king, the child stealer. "Blackwood," he snarled. "Should have known you'd turn traitor eventually." He swung a knife at her throat. Sarah caught his wrist, slammed her forehead into his already broken nose, and when he staggered back, she put a bullet through his heart. He looked surprised, mouth opening like he wanted to ask a question, then collapsed into the dust. The gunfire was stopping now. The surviving slavers were fleeing into the dark, abandoning wagons and supplies, and whatever honor they'd pretended to have. Sarah turned, heart hammering, looking for... there. Dakota, kneeling in the dirt, clutching his shoulder. And in front of him, a boy. His boy, wrapped in his father's arms, both of them shaking, both of them alive. All around the camp, the other brothers were finding their sons, holding them like they might disappear if they let go. Nidus had his 4-year-old pressed to his chest, the little one sobbing into his father's neck. Neshoba was checking his twin boys for injuries, hands gentle despite their size. Kohana and Maka stood with their sons, speaking in low, urgent voices, touching foreheads, breathing the same air. 15 boys, all alive, all free. Sarah's legs gave out. She sat down hard in the dust, rifle across her lap, and for the first time in 8 years, she cried. Not because of pain or fear or loss, but because sometimes, just sometimes, the good people won. They didn't go back to Copper Ridge. There was nothing there but bad memories and worse men. Instead, they rode west, toward the sacred mountains, where Dakota said his people still held land that the government hadn't stolen yet. It took 6 days, moving slow because the boys were exhausted and several were injured. On the 4th night, as they camped beside a stream that actually had water in it, Dakota sat down beside Sarah's fire. "You saved them," he said. "Not just from the slavers, from a life of..." He stopped. Couldn't finish. "We saved them," Sarah corrected. "All of us together. My father was right about you." Dakota touched the sacred bear on his shoulder. "You carry this mark, not just on your skin, in your spirit." Sarah looked at the scar on her arm, glowing faint in the firelight. "Your father gave me back my life. All I did was pass it forward." "No," Dakota said firmly. "You gave us back our sons, our future, our reason to keep fighting." He was quiet for a moment, then, "Come with us, to the mountains. There is land there. Good land. We are rebuilding what was taken. We need warriors. We need..." He struggled for the word. "Family." Sarah felt something shift in her chest, like a key turning in a lock she'd thought was broken. "I've been alone a long time," she said quietly. "So have we," Dakota replied. "Since the wars started, since the government came, since..." He gestured at the scars on his wrists where the ropes had bitten deep. "We are all broken pieces, but broken pieces can make something new." Sarah looked around the camp, at the 5 brothers tending to their sons, at the boys who were starting to laugh again, starting to play, at the fire burning warm against the cold desert night. "I don't know your ways," she said. "I don't know your language, your customs." "You know the only thing that matters," Dakota interrupted. "You know how to fight for people who cannot fight for themselves." 2 weeks later, they reached the mountain settlement. It wasn't much, a few dozen families scratching out survival on land too poor for white settlers to want. But it was theirs. The elders came out to meet them, and when they saw the sacred bear on Sarah's arm, when they heard Dakota's story of how she'd emptied her life savings to free them, how she'd fought beside them, how she'd helped save their sons. The oldest woman, her face a map of wrinkles and wisdom, took Sarah's hands. "You are welcome here," she said in halting English, "not as guest, as daughter." That first winter was hard. Sarah's ranch had been abandoned, likely already claimed by squatters or burned by vengeful locals from Copper Ridge. Everything she'd built was gone. but she learned to build new things. The brothers taught her how to tan hides properly, how to read weather and the movement of birds, how to find water where the land looked dead. She taught them about ranching, about rotating crops, about dealing with white traders without getting cheated. The boys, the 15 rescued sons plus the other children in the settlement, called her Aunt Sarah and brought her flowers made of painted stones and asked her to tell them stories about the outside world. And slowly, day by day, the settlement grew stronger. They built a school, a trading post, a council house. They dug irrigation ditches and planted crops that could survive the harsh seasons. They trained the young ones to shoot and ride and think strategically, because they all knew the government would come eventually. Sarah's cabin was small but comfortable, built with her own hands and the help of people who'd become more than friends. Family, like Dakota had said, the kind you chose rather than the kind you were born into. On the second anniversary of the rescue, they held a feast. The entire settlement gathered, sharing food and stories and laughter that echoed off the mountain walls. Dakota found Sarah sitting a little apart from the crowd, looking up at the stars. "Thinking about the past?" he asked. "Thinking about your father," Sarah admitted. "Wondering if he knew. When he saved me. If he knew I'd end up here." Dakota sat beside her. "My father believed the spirits speak through our choices. He saved you because saving you was right. You saved us because saving us was right. The rest," he shrugged. "The rest is what we make of it." Sarah smiled. "Pretty wise for someone who got himself nearly hanged." "Nearly doesn't count," Dakota said, and they both laughed. Below them, the children were playing a game with sticks and stones, their voices high and bright. Nidas's little one was riding on Neshoba's shoulders, giggling. Kohana was showing his son how to carve wood. Maka was helping the older boys build something that looked like a fort and would probably collapse by morning. "They're happy," Sarah said softly. "That's what matters." "Because of you," Dakota said. "Because you chose to see us, not as savages or criminals or problems to be solved, just as people who needed help." Sarah touched the sacred bear on her arm. "Your father saw me the same way. When I was dying in that mine, ready to give up, he saw something worth saving." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars wheel overhead, listening to the sounds of family and home. "The government will come," Dakota said eventually. "They always do." "I know," Sarah agreed. "But when they do, we'll be ready. All of us. Together." Dakota nodded. Together. And in that word, Sarah heard everything she'd been searching for her whole life. Belonging. Purpose. A reason to keep fighting when the world seemed determined to grind good people into dust. She had come to Copper Ridge with nothing but cattle money and loneliness. She was leaving it behind with something far more valuable. A family forged in blood and fire. Brothers who would die for each other. Sons who would grow up knowing their worth. A community that refused to be broken. The Iron Rose they'd started calling her in the settlement. Beautiful, but thorned. Soft enough to nurture, hard enough to draw blood. Sarah didn't mind the name. She'd been called worse things by better people. As the feast continued into the night, she stood and walked back down the hill, back to the warmth and light and laughter. Back to the family she'd bought with silver and defended with bullets. Back to the only home that had ever truly felt like hers. And somewhere in the stars above, she liked to think an Apache warrior who'd once saved a dying woman smiled and knew his faith had been repaid. 5 years later, when the government surveyors came with their maps and their proclamations and their soldiers, they found something they didn't expect. Not a scattered, starving settlement begging for handouts, but a thriving community with irrigation, crops, livestock, and a school where children learned in 2 languages. a trading post that dealt fairly with white and Apache alike, a council that settled disputes without bloodshed. And standing at the front, rifles ready but not raised, 5 Apache warriors and 1 white woman with a sacred bear tattooed on her arm. The surveyors tried to claim the land anyway. That's what governments do. But Sarah Blackwood had learned a lot in 5 years about working within systems and around them. She'd filed proper land claims in her name and the names of each brother. She'd gotten territorial lawyers involved. She'd called in favors from every person she'd ever dealt honestly with. And when the surveyors went back to Santa Fe with their reports, they found that this particular parcel of worthless mountain land was tied up in so much legal complexity that it would take years and a fortune to untangle. Years they didn't have, fortunes they weren't willing to spend. So the settlement stood, precarious, always one bad season or bad decision from collapse, but standing. The boys grew into men. Some married and brought wives to the settlement. Some left to see the world and came back with stories. Some died in accidents or sickness or the occasional raid from bandits who thought an Apache settlement would be easy pickings. They were always wrong about that last part. Sarah grew older, her dark hair going silver, her hands getting rougher but her aim staying true. She never married, though there were offers. She said she already had more family than most people could handle. Takota's son, Kai, became the settlement's best hunter. Needus's little one, once carried from the slaver camp in his father's arms, grew into a warrior poet who wrote down their stories so they wouldn't be forgotten. Neshoba's twins became master blacksmiths. Kohana's boy became a teacher. Maka's son became a trader who could negotiate with anyone and never get cheated. And every year on the anniversary of the rescue, they would gather and remember. Remember the town square in Copper Ridge where 5 men hung bleeding. Remember a woman who spent everything she had to buy, their freedom. Remember 15 boys stolen and 15 boys saved. Remember that sometimes, when the world is cruel and hope seems like a lie, there are still people who will stand between the innocent and the monsters, people like Sarah Blackwood, the Iron Rose of Copper Ridge, who came to a town to buy supplies and left with a family, who owed a debt to a dead man and paid it to his sons, who proved that family isn't always blood, honor isn't always loud, and sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply refuse to walk away when walking away would be easier. Her gravestone, when she finally died at the age of 73, was simple: Sarah Blackwood, the Iron Rose. She stood when others knelt, and beneath it, carved by Kai with his own hands, the sacred bear with 7 rays, marking her forever as one of them, not by birth, by choice. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the Wild West, where honor was harder to find than water and more valuable than gold. Sarah Blackwood's story reminds us that the strongest chains aren't made of iron. They're made of debt, honor, and love. If this tale moved you, if you felt the desert dust in your throat and heard the echo of hoofbeats in your heart, leave a comment below. Tell me what you thought. Type the number 8 if Sarah's journey spoke to your soul. Subscribe for more stories from the frontier where every sunset could be your last and every stranger might be the one who changes your life forever. Until next time, may you have the courage to stand when others kneel, and may you never walk past someone who needs saving. This has been your storyteller, bringing you tales from the Wild West where legends were born and heroes were forged in blood and dust.